Welcome to the Skull State of Mind podcast. I'm your host, D Woods. Well, Super Wild Card Weekend is done, and this is basically the wrap up show. I'm going to dive a little deep into these six wild card games and tell you my thoughts, my opinions, and how I really felt on what happened in these games. So, first off, let's start off with the Texans blow out the Cleveland Browns. Now, the score was 45-14 Texans, but I just feel like it wasn't even really a game at all. Like I've been saying it for a couple of weeks that eventually the real Joe Flacco was going to show up. And me personally, I don't really like things that are like overly hyped and it just keeps going and going and going. It's like it reminds me of the whole Josh Dobbs situation where he had a couple of good quarters and a lot of people just blew it up. I mean, I'm not saying Joe Flacco didn't play great, but I'm just saying like he was sitting on the couch. So eventually, the reason why he was sitting on that couch, during the beginning of the season or whatever was gonna show up. But we're gonna slide that to the side about Joe Flacco. Let's talk about CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud is going to be the offensive rookie of the year. That young boy is out there balling. I mean, the culture that they are building out there, in Houston, they're gonna be a good team for years to come. Like, shout out to D'Amico Ryans. Like, he really waited for the right job because I feel like D'Amico suits, Houston, especially because, he was drafted by Houston back in the day. He played for Houston, but like what they building down there, they just gonna need a little bit more pieces to get, you know, to become a contending team. But right now, they building something. So let's move on. So now we got the Chiefs beating the Miami Dolphins. Now, I picked the Dolphins to win this game. Like I kind of felt like going into this game that if the Dolphins were able to run the ball consistently against Kansas City, that they could control this game. I mean, the final score was 26-7. It's like that's real disappointing from the Dolphins end because it's like they were putting up points all over the place this whole season, and it kind of feels like when the game is on the line and you really got to go out there and put up points, they couldn't do it. I really think they wish they would have, saved some of them points against Denver when they put that 70 burger on them and actually, put some points on this game. But it is what it is. Like I ain't gonna really, say too much because I feel like at the end of the day, you can never put Pat Mahomes out. Like Pat Mahomes gonna find a way. He is arguably, if not one or the best quarterback in this league, and they got it done. And I don't even want to hear about, oh, it was cold, receivers was dropping balls. But hey, it's football, man. You gotta play in the elements. It is what it is. You win, or you go home. It is like that. So Dolphins, I would say this is a disappointing season for them because I really thought they were going to go a little bit farther. But let's keep it moving. Now, this is another game, I was really hyped about. You already know I'm a Viking fan, so I wanted to see what the Lions was going to do. But this game was a straight up and down game. I just felt like, it was a lot of offense this game, but the score was like 24-23. Yeah, the Lions only won by 1 point. It is what it is. They won the game. It don't matter if you win by an inch or you win by a mile. As long as you win, it is what it is. But it was a crazy storylines going into this game. Like Jared Goff, he gets traded from the Rams because they wanted a more legitimate quarterback so they can go to the Super Bowl. Like Matt Stafford pretty much has all the passing, records up there in Detroit. So the storylines was cool, but I just kind of felt like, when it actually came down to the game, like the Lions, they survived. I'm not gonna say they like, I'm not gonna dismiss their win because that's kind of fucked up, but it was like an offensive game. Like the Lions made more plays than the Rams, so they won the game. And I feel like the Rams, at the end of the game, they had every opportunity to extend the game and or win the game with a field goal, and they couldn't do it. So hey, that's what happens. Just like I said before, you win or you go home. Now, I'm not going to do these games in order because it's just certain games I probably want to talk about a little bit more. But let's move on. So the Bills beat the Steelers. Now was a game like I didn't really like watch this game a lot because it was just, I'm not gonna say it was boring, but it got to like certain points to where in this game it was just like, all right, this is it, like Steelers, you know, I would say they had a successful season. They was over 500 again, but they basically was outmatched, today against the Buffalo Bills. So we ain't gonna really talk about that too much. Buffalo beat them 31-17. So moving on, moving on, moving on, moving on. All right. So this is one here that was completely circled on my calendar. I basically wanted to sit down, watch this game all the way through because you know who I picked? I picked the Green Bay Packers to beat the not Chicago. I picked the Green Bay Packers to beat the Dallas Cowboys, right? And it's no really hate against the Cowboys. I just kind of felt like, man, what I saw Jordan Love do against my Vikings, I was like, okay, that boy got it. Then he continued it up. Like the way the Packers closed the season, like, man, they was rolling. And that's the thing about it in the playoffs. If you know, are a team that's rolling in the playoffs, you can basically beat anybody. But I had no idea this shit was going to be a fucking blowout. Like the score doesn't really even give it no justice. 48-32. It was basically like the Green Bay Packers got everything they wanted and they were going down the field all game. And it's like Dallas is basically self-destructed. Like Dallas has a lot of question marks going into this off season. We already know like Mark McCarthy is probably not going to be the head coach. I mean, shit, Dan Quinn is not going to be a defensive coordinator, which is kind of like bad too, because he was supposed to be like a head coach multiple times, but he stayed in that the coordinator seat. And look at his defense, man. His defense just it ain't it, man. It ain't it. They give up too many yards. That bend don't break mentality don't always work. And we've been seeing it multiple years with this defense where it's like, oh, okay, they give up a lot of yards, and for some reason at the opposing team gets to the end zone and they kick a field goal. Well, the red zone they kick a field goal, right? So it's like it's not really saying like what's really happening for the whole game, but they're gonna make a lot of changes, and I really see it. I'm gonna call it right now. I don't think Dak Prescott is going to be back, you know, with the Dallas Cowboys next season. I mean, why would he come back? He probably only got like 1 or 2 years, I'm not sure, left on his contract. And I just kind of feel like the Dallas Cowboys it's time to like rip the band-aid. If you're going to bring another coach in here with the same, quarterback and same, players in the locker room, hey, just let it go. Like, and Dak is not a bad quarterback. I think maybe, the Dallas Cowboys can package Dak Prescott somewhere to maybe like Atlanta, Chicago, to some quarterback needy team so Dak can kind of get a fresh start because hey, the Cowboys, man, this ain't it. This ain't it. So, oh, another thing though too, Jordan Love, the boy legit. All right. So let's get to the last game, that we talk about right now. I hope that is all the games though. So, thank you for tuning in to the Skull Set of Mind podcast. This whole Viking off season, I'm basically going to be doing way more content on all things football. So I appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. Skull.